Hello, and welcome to the Fulbright-Hays Doctoral Dissertation Research Abroad Program 2021 Technical Assistance Workshop. My name is Dr. Pamela Maimer, and I'm the Senior Program Officer for the DDRA program. Today, we will have an overview of the DDRA program, offer a description of the pre-award process, a description of the application review process, some application tips. First, let's start with a brief history of the Fulbright-Hays programs. The Fulbright-Hays Act of 1961 is officially known as the Mutual Education and Cultural Exchange Act of 1961. It was started by the Senator J. William Fulbright and enacted by the 87th U.S. Congress on September 21, 1961. The international education programs were originally created under the National Defense Education Act and then incorporated into the Higher Education Act, thus expanding the programs beyond the training of specialists and emphasizing the importance of international studies as a matter of general education importance. To date, we have had over 5,600 fellows funded with the Fulbright-Hays DDRA program. To accomplish this objective, the Doctoral Dissertation Research Abroad program, the DDRA program, provides opportunities for scholars to conduct research overseas for 6 to 12 months in the field of modern foreign languages and area studies. Final approval of the award recommendations are given by the Fulbright-Hays Foreign Scholarship Board. Notable DDRA fellows include Dr. Leela Hazza, Executive Director of Lion Guardians and CNN Hero, Dr. April Strickland, anthropologist for Oprah's Belief series, and Dr. Victor Pineda, disabilities rights activist, and Dr. Jim Miller, a Fulbright Executive Director of Morocco. About the DDRA Fellowship, the DDRA Fellowship is designed to contribute to the development and improvement of the study of modern foreign languages and area studies in the U.S. by providing opportunities for scholars to conduct research abroad. For the purpose of this program, Area Studies is defined as an interdisciplinary program of comprehensive study of the aspects of a society or societies, including the study of their geography, history, culture, economy, politics, education, international relations, and language. Since Area Studies is broadly defined and we have students in many different disciplines every year, DDRA is an annual competition and is an institutional grant that awards fellowships to research scholars. The institution is awarded a grant for 18 months from October 1st of one year to March 31st of the 18 months later. A scholar must travel for a minimum of 6 months and for a maximum of 12 consecutive months. The program is intended to provide assistance to students who are well on their way to becoming the next batch of area specialists. This program is not for someone who wants a new experience and has never been in the field. IIE, funded by the State Department, has programs that are more appropriate for new scholars. Applications must be submitted electronically via the U.S. Department of Education's G5 e-application system. This year, we are highlighting some information about the COVID-19 and the pandemic. Due to the pandemic, all Fulbright travel will begin January 1st, 2022 for this competition fellows. The IFLE office will not approve grant activation requests to countries where a Level 4 State Department travel advisory or CDC Level 4 warning is in place at the proposed time of departure, or if the country was closed prior to the COVID-19 emergency. Absolutely no DDRA research travel should take place before January 2022, and only if the U.S. Embassy or the Fulbright Commission has reopened the country to Fulbright Fellows. Research periods may not be less than 6 months or more than 12 consecutive months per the grant period. And remember, there are no deferrals in DDRA. Fulbright-Hays DDRA program policies do not permit the grant to be deferred to the subsequent academic year. Due to the pandemic, many countries may not be prepared to accept fellows until later in the year. I recently sent a list of which countries may be able to accept fellows, and this is also included in the maintenance allowance section of the application instructions. This year, the key is flexibility. Flexibility in travel, flexibility in dates, and flexibility to working with your host countries and affiliations and the host institutions. You will need to use all your diplomatic skills to help you navigate during this time. If we determine in consultation with your host country that the Fulbright program can be restarted, you may be able to begin your program in country as early as January 2022. The exact start dates will be determined in consultation with the host country and the Fulbright Commission or U.S. Embassy in the host country. If your host country reveals that it is not possible for DDRA Fulbrighters to begin their grants in January 2022, the in-person program starts as soon as can be rescheduled as local conditions allow, pending a final determination by the U.S. Embassy and or the Fulbright Commission that the program can restart. This scenario may result in your program length being shorter than you originally planned. Here is some information on the screen for coronavirus information. We have information from the CDC, travel advisories where you can see which countries and which level they are at this time, noting that they may change at any time, State Department information, and every applicant should arrange to participate in the STEP program through the Department of State. Okay, let's look at FY 2021 competition priorities. These are similar that they have been in years past. Our absolute priority and the competitive preference priorities. These will focus, the absolute priority will focus on the geographic area, and the department will only consider applications that meet this priority for an absolute priority. And this is a research project that focuses on one or more of the following geographic areas: Africa, East Asia, Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands, South Asia, the Near East, Central and Eastern Europe and Eurasia, and the Western Hemisphere, excluding the United States and its territories. The competitive preference priorities, which are designed to highlight particular areas the department wants to focus on, we have two. The first one is on a research project that focuses on any modern foreign language except French, Spanish, or German. And competitive preference priority 2 is a thematic focus on academic fields, and it is a research project conducted in the field of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, computer science, education, comparative or international, international development, political science, public health, or economics. And I'll talk more about those later. For 2021, we had a little over $4 million, which is actually the highest amount of funding we've had in recent years. The estimated range of awards are between $15,000 and $60,000. The average size is around $39,000, and we estimate to make 90 to 100 awards. Who is eligible for grant funding? Only institutions of higher education are eligible to submit an application. Each institutional applicant must appoint a DDRA project director who assumes the responsibility to register as the project director for his or her university in the G5 e-application system, advise and guide individual student applications, submit the entire application to the U.S. Department of Education, administer the grant and disperse funds, and serve as a point of contact for all of that institution's fellows, regardless of the research topic or discipline. Students, please register in the G5 system as at least 1 week before the closing date. We need to have on record that the institution and students are in the system in case something happens to the application. A student is eligible to receive a DDRA fellowship if the student is a citizen or a national of the United States or is a permanent resident of the U.S., is a graduate student in good standing at an eligible institution of higher education, and when the fellowship period begins, is admitted to candidacy in a doctoral degree program in modern foreign languages and area studies at that institution. Plans to a teaching career in the United States upon graduation, or who plans to apply language skills in world areas vital to the U.S. national security and knowledge of these countries in the fields of government, international development, and various professions, and possesses adequate skills in the foreign languages necessary to carry out the dissertation research project. Please note that although the DDRA program funds student research, the legal applicant is the institution of higher education, and if a grant is awarded, the institution is the legal grantee. Graduate students in doctoral programs in the fields of foreign languages and area studies must apply through the U.S. institutions in which they are enrolled. A student is eligible when the fellowship begins and who's admitted to candidacy. Over the years, we have had many students who apply both to the DDRA program and to the Fulbright U.S. Student Program conducted through the IIE State Department's program. And we have a policy on accepting FUSP IIE awards and DDRA awards. You can apply to both DDRA and to the IIE Fulbright Grants Program simultaneously. However, you cannot accept both awards at the same time. If you are selected for an IIE Fulbright U.S. Student Award, you may attend the orientation or accept any funds from that program, you are deemed ineligible for DDRA. And the same is true with DDRA and FUSP programs. The reason is if you have received funds from IIE, then you have in essence accepted their award over DDRA, and thus you are ineligible for DDRA. You cannot repay one program to take advantage of the other. There is no provision to repay a federal agency. Once we have our slate of awards, we will verify with the IIE program who has applied and accepted an award with their program and we will withdraw you from the DDRA program. So just be mindful of that provision. So when the project director reviews application, they should look for the following information in the student's application in G5. That there is the Fulbright-Hays DDRA application form, a curriculum vitae, a project description or application narrative that complies with the guidelines set forth in the notice inviting applications, an application bibliography, 1 foreign language reference form, 3 graduate student reference forms, transcripts, and please remember to scrub the transcripts of personally identifiable information, letters of affiliation from host countries. This will be particularly important this year because of the provisions surrounding the pandemic, and that there is an institutional review board, IRB narrative, if applicable. And what are the other roles and responsibilities? As you can see here, we've outlined the institution roles: attend the DDRA Technical Assistance webinar, have appointed a project director who is registered in G5. The institution should make fellowship application materials available to all doctoral students, accepts and screens applications in accordance with its own technical and academic criteria, includes student applications with the institutional application, and then agrees to administer the grant and disperse the funds to the fellows. Fellows' responsibilities are to contact the project director for institutional information, register in G5, initiate emails to solicit references, complete application in G5, submit institutional review board narrative to the project director to upload into G5, and follow up with the project director as opposed to the department about your application. Your references or referee will receive the reference forms from the fellow once they initiate their application, completes and submits the reference forms, and sends the project director. It would be smart for them to send the project director a copy of the reference and form. Remind your referee to not use international characters or non-English characters. Most importantly, tell your references that G5 may not accept documents from non-US servers. So if at all possible, please have references submit their reference for you from a US-based server. The G5 e-application system, which you can find at www.g5.gov, all applications are submitted for the DDRA program through the G5 e-application system. There are 7 required documents that the student must submit into G5, and the DDRA application form is an electronic form in G5. The remaining documents must be uploaded and saved in PDF, and the PDFs must be unlocked and unprotected in order for G5 to accept the submission. So when you're looking at the G5 application, students must submit the individual applications to the project director using G5. Language and academic references submit forms to project directors using G5. And remember, references, if they're using servers from overseas, may not be able to submit forms in G5. Please remove all personally identifiable information from transcripts, including birth dates, social security numbers, and home addresses. You do not want this material in your application. Other information about the G5E application system: when fellows are filling out their application, they must select no to the question, are you registering as a fellowship, Fulbright-Hays Doctoral Dissertation, or Research Abroad Director? Fellows, please instruct the referee to print and send a copy of the reference letter and form to the project director. For the DDRA reference forms, in order for them to appear, fellowship applicants need to at least save a draft of the DDRA form with the number 22, with their name, institution, country of research, and language. After that, the reference forms will appear. Project directors must register as applicant, not project director, in the G5 profile. The project director officially submits institution of higher education and all individual student applications, reference forms, IRB narratives, and other required forms using the G5E application system. Please make sure that all applicants and referees hit the Submit button to complete the application submission. So what does that do to screen for eligibility? We screen all applications for technical eligibility in accordance with the evaluation criteria published in the Notice Inviting Applications and Program-Specific Regulations of 34 CFR Part 62. Any U.S. institution of higher education, IHE, is eligible to participate in the DDRA competition. The IHE is the legal applicant, and if the grant is awarded, the legal grantee. The IHE must identify a project director who will actually submit the application, including those of the individual students, to the Department of Education. This individual is actually a representative of one of the departments on campus, typically the Dean of Graduate Studies, Student Affairs, or someone in the sponsored programs office. Students are not able to apply for this funding independently. It is necessary for the student and the institution to coordinate activities, and both the student and the institution must complete their portions of the applications. Student eligibility, as discussed earlier, is you must be a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or U.S. national. You're in good academic standing, planning to a teaching career in rural areas vital to U.S. national security. You must not have other grants such as IIE, Boren, IREX, Japan Foundation in the same year they receive a DDRA fellowship, and you must not be in default on your student loan status. Students who default on federal student loans are not eligible to apply. Students who receive support for more than 6 months of the DDRA grant are not eligible to reapply. And also, for the 2021 DDRA competition, permanent residents or green card holders will not be able to conduct research in the country in which they hold a passport. We will only accept applications from students to conduct research in Russia who are U.S. citizens. Okay, what are some of the financial provisions of the program? DDRA funds may include such expenses as health and accident insurance for the fellow, books, technology related to proposed research, travel within the host countries, affiliation fees, or dependents who is your married spouse or an unmarried child under the age of 21. This year, you would be allowed to use maintenance allowance to cover if you have to quarantine, you would be able to use your maintenance allowance to cover those expenses. For financial provisions that we do not cover is on this list. We do not cover research or project related activities conducted in the U.S., any gifts, stipends, salary, monetary honoraria for research subjects or research assistants. DDRA money is for the fellow and their dependents only. Reimbursement for travel not approved for the Department of Education. Any allowances for dependents not accompanying the fellow for the entire research period. Travel for dependents is not covered. We do not cover buying cars or mopeds or motorcycles, any kind of motorized vehicles. Travel and expenses not directly related to the project. All expenditures due to changes in the itinerary or grant agreement. We cannot cover passport, visa, photo, or other identifying documents for clearance. And that has come up in years past. We cannot cover those things. Pre-award travel to obtain research or permission or visas we cannot cover. Physical examinations, immunizations, or other medical expenses cannot be covered by the DDRA grant funds. These are pre-award costs that must be covered by the fellow. Tuition or fees for study or projects conducted in the U.S., and any obligations not incurred within the grant period. If these items are included in the fellow budget, they will be eliminated. Okay, so just make sure that you look at this list when you're conducting your, when you're writing up your budget, you don't include any of these items, including things such as no first class travel, no travel costs for dependents. If you have to travel to another country to obtain a visa, these are not covered by the DDRA grant funds. No equipment that lasts beyond the life of the grant, cars, research equipment, computers, etc. And we get this frequently, but internet access is a part of your maintenance allowance and is not included in your project allowance. Okay, so review this list to make sure you're not including any of these items in your budgets. Okay, let's start looking at the technical review information. Your applications are assessed by peer reviewers who are world area specialists in foreign languages and area studies from institutions of higher education, government agencies, and non-government agencies throughout the U.S. Peer reviewers determine the technical scores in accordance with the competitive preference priorities, quality of the proposed project, and qualifications of the applicants. So here you can see that the application is comprised of two parts: the quality of the proposed project and the qualifications of the applicants. It's worth 100 points maximum for that section, and your competitive preference priorities are worth 5 points for a total of 105 points maximum for the application. Here are the selection criteria for the DDRA application. For quality of proposed project, which is worth a maximum of 60 points, you have a hypothesis statement, research question, that's 15 points. Theoretical issues, originality, and literature, that's worth 10 points. Your preliminary research is worth 10 points. Justification for overseas research is worth 10 points. How you will disseminate your findings is worth 5 points. The guidance and supervision from your advisor and committee while you're abroad is worth 10 points. The qualifications of the applicants is worth a maximum of 40 points. The applicant's academic record is worth 10 points. The academic strength in area studies is worth 10 points. The language proficiency is worth 15 points. And the applicant's ability to conduct research overseas is worth 5 points. So let's look at the quality of proposed project. And here is what researchers will expect. For the hypothesis statement, they will look at if the proposal is well organized and excellently conceived, the research questions are clear, the justification of research methods is strong. For your theoretical issues, we will review if there is an originality, demonstrates relevant knowledge of the literature in the field, and that the applicant has analyzed and articulated the potential impact of the research. For preliminary research, the applicant should indicate whether they have completed substantial preliminary research and that they demonstrate a clear plan for how they will conduct the research. For justification of overseas research, the applicant should provide a clear justification for conducting the research overseas, and the applicant should demonstrate appropriate connections in the host country. The dissemination plan is worth 5 points, and the applicant, we're looking for a clear plan for sharing preliminary and final findings of the research with stakeholders, the academic community, and etc. Guidance and supervision from the advisor and committee. Here we want to know that the applicant has indicated a clear plan for how the advisor and the committee will guide and supervise the work of the applicant. Evidence that the advisor is engaged and invested in the applicant is made clear. Now, for the qualifications of the applicant. Here, we're looking for strong evidence of a really stellar academic record, such as a strong GPA. Does the fellow have previous fellowships and publications? The academic strength in area studies. Reviewers will look at, does the applicant's academic record demonstrate a strength in area studies? The language proficiency. This is one of the most important criterion in the application. As you can see, it's worth 15 points. And here we're looking for, does the applicant's language evaluation reflect an extremely high level of competency? And then the final question is the applicant's ability to conduct research overseas, which is worth 5 points. Does the applicant demonstrate they have the ability to perform the research abroad and as proposed? So let's talk about the absolute and competitive priorities, which is worth a maximum of 5 points. The absolute priority means that all applications must address the 7 geographic regions, which are either Africa, East Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, Near East, Central and Eastern Europe, and Eurasia, and the Western Hemisphere, excluding the U.S. and its territories. For competitive preference 1 is a research project that focuses on any modern, let me stress that, foreign language except French, German, or Spanish. And it's worth 2 additional points in the application. English is not an eligible language, nor are any antiquated languages such as Latin, Sanskrit, or any language that's not modern. Competitive preference priority 2 is worth 3 points. And here we're looking for a research project conducted in the field of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, computer science, education, either comparative or international education, international development, political science, public health, or economics. I'm going to give you a few application tips that may help you in composing your application. Things that are really smart to do is to address all the selection criteria in the order listed in the application. You don't want to have the reviewers trying to find your information all over the proposal. Be very organized, clear, and concise. Provide a detailed research plan. You want to include sufficient details about your research goals. One of the important things that you could do is to prep your references and give them lots of time to write you a glowing recommendation. It's really a shame when we get an application and the references are not supportive of your application. So make sure that you have, one, given them enough time to complete it and given them instructions on how to submit their application, and you select someone who is going to give you a glowing recommendation. Avoid grammatical errors or using a lot of professional jargon that the readers may not be familiar with. Really use persuasive descriptions of your research and make sure that you are clear yet concise. And remember, your entire application counts, not just your project narrative. So make sure you pay attention to all of the selection criteria and sub-criteria. Here are some things not to do. Don't wing it. Be clear in what you propose to do and be very descriptive. Also, you do not want to wait until the deadline to contact people you would need letters of support, because if they are not in the application, we will not open the application after the closing date. Do not guess at the formatting requirements and length restrictions. Please review these in the notice inviting applications. Do not write or send in your proposal at the last minute. Work with your institution in advance to submit your application so that it arrives on time. Do not propose doing research in a country in which you will need to speak another language but have no evidence of having learned that language. That is a large number of points in the application, and you want to make sure that you are highly proficient to conduct research in that foreign language. If you are, by chance, reapplying after not being selected in a prior year, we send out the technical review forms for you with suggestions from the reviewers. Do not ignore those suggestions that the reviewers gave you in your prior application and put those suggestions into formulating your application for this year. In submitting your application, some tips are to make sure that you are registered in the G5 online system early to avoid any systems issues. You want to make sure you back up and save your documents in case there's any computer issues. Remember not to use any special or non-English characters. Those can create issues in G5. Please remove all personally identifiable documents from the attachments, especially your transcripts and any other official documents that you have. People will look at these documents and you don't want your personal information such as your birth date, your any kind of other personally identifiable information. And once again, institutions and fellows, do not wait until the last minute to submit your application. If you are applying as a fellow, but your institution does not have a project director, please work with your sponsored programs office or graduate studies office to get someone assigned to submit the application on your behalf. Okay, and once again, I know I'm saying this quite a few times, but don't wait until the last minute to submit. The G5 system will go down at 4:30 and 0 seconds p.m. Washington, D.C. time. No exceptions. I would target 3 days before the due date to submit applications to avoid any issues. And submitting an application from an international location may not be possible. If possible, try to upload all documents from a U.S. server. We cannot intervene if you cannot upload your documents from an international server, as G5 is a U.S. government platform and may not allow access from foreign servers. So finally, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, if you have DDRA related questions about the programmatic issues, contact DDRA at ed.gov. For G5 technical assistance, the number is 1-888-336-8930, and the application deadline is April 5th, 2021 at 4:30 p.m. and 0 seconds Washington, D.C. time. And you can check out the online training module at www.g5.gov. So that concludes the presentation for today, and good luck, and I wish you all the best. Take care.